everyone, for today's lesson we are going to take what we learned about the midpoint formula to the next level. For today's lesson, I recommend strongly that you have out your interactive notebook, your calculator, some highlighters, and you will need something to write with. So please make sure that you pause the video and you have all of these items out to help you for today. So the first thing I want to do is recap on what we talked about in our interactive notebook. So the first thing that we did was we defined the words midpoint, bisect, and segment bisector. And we learned that the word midpoint represents the middle point. It is the point that divides a segment into two congruent segments. In this case, we had point M be the midpoint. The next word that we had was the word bisect, and bisect simply means to cut in half. It's something that cuts a segment into two congruent parts. So in this case, we had point M bisect segment AB. But then there is another word called, or term called, segment bisector. And segment bisector is any figure that crosses or touches the midpoint of a line segment is considered a segment bisector. So those were all of our quick vocabulary words. We had a quick example of how we plan to use it. And then we learned about the midpoint formula. The midpoint formula, we only use this whenever we are working with coordinates, a coordinate plane, and it's not very easy to identify what the midpoint is. So those are the pieces that we are going to be working with today in our notes. All right, let's go ahead and look at our very first example. It says, find RS. Notice that RS does not have a line above it, meaning we're looking for a length. And based on the information that I have here in this first example, I can see that we have two tick marks that are the same, indicating that T is our midpoint. And if T is the midpoint, it divides the segment into two congruent pieces. So if R to T is 21.7, T to S is also 21.7. So in order for us to find the full length of R to S, we are going to do either one of two things. RS, you can say, is 21.7 plus 21.7, and that is going to be equal to 43.4. Or another way that you could view this problem is that RS is equal to 2 times 21.7. 2 times 21.7 is also 43.4. So whichever way you want to do this problem, I'm good with. It just depends on what you see first. All right, let's go ahead and look at letter B. For letter B, it says find the segment or find the length of segment AB. So we have the same exact picture, only this time it's being bisected by a ray. That's okay. We know our information that we really need, and that is these tick marks indicating that C is the midpoint. So from A to C is 2 1/4. C to B must be 2 1/4 as well. And you can go ahead and solve this by adding the two fractions or mixed fractions together to find AB, or you can times it by 2. I'm going to add 2 1/4 plus 2 1/4. And whenever you add numbers like these, I would recommend that you add the whole numbers together first. That's going to equal the number 4. And then add the fractions. 1/4 and 1/4 is a half. I'm sorry, is 1/2. There we go. And so therefore, AB is equal to 4 1/2. Cool. Pretty easy so far, I hope. Now, the next phrase or thing that I really want you to notice and see is that whenever you see the word midpoint in your directions, this means that the two expressions are equal to each other. And if they are equal to each other, That will help us with solving our problem. So down here, we are told that point C is the midpoint of segment BD. Now, I don't know what segment the whole length is. I really don't. But what I do know is that BC is 3x minus 2, and I know that C to D is 2x plus 3. I don't know what the length of BD is, so I'm not going to use that language of part plus part equals whole. That would not be appropriate in this problem. So instead, I'm simply going to set 3x minus 2 equal to 2x plus 3 because I know that they are equal. These tick marks, they have the same tick mark on each side. That tells me that they are equivalent. So I'm going to solve this equation by subtracting 2x on both sides. And I like to do more than one step in one step. So I know that my next step is probably going to be to add 2 to both sides. The 3x minus 2x is 1x. Negative 2 plus 2 cancels away. Equals, the 2x's cancel away, and 3 plus 2 is 5. Cool, I found what x is, but that does not answer my question. My question was to find what BD is, so I need to keep going. So I know that BC was equal to 3x times 2. And if I know that x is 5, this is 3 times 5 minus 2. So that's 15 minus 2, which is 13. So BC is equal to 13. Now, you can plug this back in to find what CD is, but it should be 13 because I know that these two pieces are equivalent to each other. So let's go ahead and look at that. If you would like, you can check that out and say CD is equal to 2 times 5 plus 3, which is 10 plus 3, which is, of course, 13. So therefore, I have verified. You don't have to do this part, but you can if you want. BD, I know, is going to be equal to BC plus CD. So that is going to be 13 plus 13. And 13 plus 13 is 26. And that is the answer to my question. That is what I was looking for. What is the length of BD? So sometimes in order to get to your answer, you have to go through many steps. All right, let's go ahead and look at example number 3. In this problem, we could probably figure out what the answer is because it ends up being really nice. It says the endpoints of segment PR are located at P being negative 2, 5, and R is located at 4, 3. Find the coordinates of the midpoint. Now, although I've given you a graph right here, a lot of the problems will not have a graph. So I can see right here that it appears that the answer is going to be 1, 4. That's what it appears to be. But like I said, a lot of times you will not be given a graph, and maybe the numbers that you will receive will be really big, so it won't make sense for us to graph. And instead, we would use the midpoint formula. Now remember, the midpoint formula is the average of our x's, so x1 plus x2 cut in half, and average of our y values, which is y1 plus y2 cut in half. And if it helps you to label x1, y1, and x2, y2, please make sure that you do that. If you don't need to, that's okay too. So I'm just going to write that m is equal to the average of my x's, which is negative 2 plus 4 divided by 2, and 5 plus 3 divided by 2. Negative 2 plus 4, that is 2 divided by 2, and 5 plus 3, that is 8 divided by 2. So our midpoint is located at 1, 4, and we just verified it algebraically using our midpoint formula. Once again, what am I looking for? I'm looking for the math. This is the piece that I'm interested in. Can you calculate the midpoint without graphing? Can you do that? If the answer is no, then that tells you that you need to really focus on the algebra part. All right, looking at example number 4, we are told that the midpoint of segment AC is 3, 4. So this time around, I already know what the midpoint is. One of the endpoints is located at 1, 6. Find the coordinates of the other endpoint, C. So this time around, I already know my midpoint and one other point. So now what we need to do is find the last endpoint. And there are two ways in order to solve this problem. The two ways is double the midpoint, subtract the endpoint. This is called option 1. So double the midpoint, subtract the endpoint, subtract the given endpoint. So I want to find what C is. C is equal to double the midpoint. So my midpoint X coordinate is located at 3. And to double means to times by 2. So I'm going to double this number 3. And then I'm going to subtract the X part of the endpoint, which is the number 1. Then I'm going to double the midpoint, so that's going to be 2 times 4. Subtract the endpoint, which is 6. And now I have it written as a coordinate plane. So what I did here is I worked with my x's. I doubled the midpoint and then subtracted the endpoint. I did the same exact thing with my y's. I doubled the midpoint and subtracted the endpoint. So now, 2 times 3 is 6. This is 6 minus 1. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 minus 6. My coordinate is going to be located at 5, 2. And let's verify that. Well, it looks like we're located at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 1, 2. Yeah, that looks about right. 5, 2. We did it. This is the ordered pair for C. We found our endpoint. So once again, what I did algebraically is I doubled the midpoint X coordinate and then subtracted the endpoint X coordinate. Then I doubled the midpoint Y coordinate and then I subtracted the endpoint Y coordinate. So that's how you solve those problems algebraically. This is one approach. There's another approach called the frog hop or the swoop method. And what you would do for this problem is you would draw a segment. And we would call this point A, and that is located at 1, 6. Point M, which is located at 3, 4. And point C, which I do not know yet, but I will find out. The top will be for X's, the bottom will be for Y's. And this is analysis. Looking at just the X coordinates, 1 and 3, what do I have to add to 1 to turn it into 3? Well, in order to go from 1 to 3, I add 2. So now I'm going to add 2 again. What is 3 plus 2? 5. And that goes into the X coordinate. Down below, if I want to ask myself, how do you go from 6 to 4? Well, to go from 6 to 4, I subtract 2. So I'm going to do it again. What's 4 minus 2? Well, 4 minus 2 is 2. So down here, we were working with our y's. It's just a quick trick in order for us to get our other endpoint. And up here, we were working with our x's. And we still ended up with the same exact endpoint. So this is called the frog hop because it kind of looks like a frog leaping from one lily pad to the other, or swoop, swoop, swoop. It's just a little fun thing that we've got going on. What I want you to do right now is please pause the video and try example number 5 on your own to see if you can do either option 1 or option 2. I don't care. I just want you to try this problem on your own. Please restart the video once you have an answer, and we will see how well you did. So I'm going to go ahead and do the double the midpoint and subtract the endpoint. And in this problem, the midpoint of segment RS is located at the letter M, and that is at -1,8. So if I were to draw like a quick picture, this is R, M is the midpoint, and S. And I know that the midpoint is located at -1,8, and I'm told that R is located at 3,2. I just don't know what S is located at. So I'm going to double the midpoint and subtract the given endpoint. This is going to help me to find what S is. So to double my midpoint, so my midpoint X value in this case is located at -1, so I'm going to double it. That means to times by 2. And then I'm going to subtract the endpoint, and the endpoint is 3, so -3, comma. Next, I'm going to double my midpoint Y coordinate, which is 8, so 2 times 8, minus double the Y coordinate, which is 2. Or subtract the Y coordinate, which is 2. Double the midpoint, subtract the endpoint. So this is going to equal 2 times -1, which is -2. -2 minus 3, comma. 2 times 8 is 16. 16 minus 2. So this is going to be equal to -5, 14. If you did frog hop, what you would do is draw a quick sketch of what this segment is supposed to be. R, S, and M, with R being located at 3,2 and M located at -1,8, and S we do not know, which we now know to be -5, 14. But if you did this approach, you're going to be analyzing your X values up top. How do you go from 3 to -1? Well, to go from 3 to -1, we subtract 4. So we're going to do that again. -1 minus 4 is -5. So this is dealing with our X values. Down below, how do you go from 2 to 8? Well, you would subtract 6. So we're going to subtract 6 again. So subtracting 6, we have 8 minus 6, which is hold on, we add 6, excuse me. We add 6, so 2 plus 6 is 8. 8 plus 6 is 14. We ended up in the exact same spot as we did before. And that is the end of today's lesson. If you have any questions over anything, please feel free to email me. Otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful day.